Hi, God bless you guys. It is, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Not sure when you guys will be watching this, of course. Um, this is part 2 of my journey and my child abuse and everything, you know, um, my path and my trail and my journey and what I've been through as a kid up until my adulthood. So this is just part 2 because I know I gave my part 1, and so here we go, because I'm really trying to be obedient, right, to God, and as vulnerable and as transparent as I can be, because I said yes to God. And so in saying yes to God, this is what I am doing right now. I am giving you guys my story. I am speaking my truth. I am being an open book, because we do not go through a journey. We do not go through tough times. We do not experience hardships and hard things to keep it to ourselves, but to share it with other people, just in case, or just in case they're going through it, they can see that you can survive all the trauma. You can survive the hardships and the tough journeys, right? We all can survive it if we allow God to use us, and we allow God to shape us and heal us and repair and mend what's broken. So I was raised in a Pentecostal Christian household. We went to church twice on Sunday. Tuesday was prayer. Wednesday was children's service or choir rehearsal. Thursday was women's service or men's service. Friday was the youth service. Saturday, if we didn't have an outing, like a campaign or something, an anniversary happening in the church, then Saturdays was usually our day off. And then we would go back to church on Sundays. Now, I bring this up to say that although I was being raised in a Pentecostal household, and my family believed in God, and my parents were, members of a church, and they were participants in a church function, like in a church family, I was being molested for years, right underneath their noses, right? And when you're a child, you don't think about certain things, but as I became an adult and I started getting closer to God and I started having a relationship with God, I was like thinking, how could it be that my folks were believing in God, and how is it that my folks were always in church, but they were missing the fact that their middle child was being molested left and right by people that they knew and they loved and were family, right? And it's hard to even understand that, like, how is that possible? That they're working for God and they're doing things for God and they're invested in church and they're ministering. However, me, I am being abused sexually. And the truth is, and here's what I discovered, right? Unless we have a relationship with God, unless we submit to God, unless we fasting and praying and developing a relationship with God, we're not going to have discernment. We need discernment of the Spirit. And the only way we get discernment of the Spirit is if we have a relationship with God. You have to have a relationship with God in order to have discernment. So, sadly and clearly, my parents didn't have an actual relationship with God. Although they worship God, although they were in church, although they did all those things, there was no discernment and there was no relationship. And the reason I can say this boldly is because although I was in that household was not full of love, right? Like, so my parents were married. My parents are actually still legally married till this day. I am 47 years old. My parents are still legally married. However, my father has not been in the house for about, my oldest daughter is 27. So I would say for about 30 something years, my dad has not been in the household, right? So my dad, um, at one point was a pastor, was pastoring a church. My dad was serving God. And 30 something years ago, my dad left the household, right? However, he is still legally married to my mother. My dad has a whole life. He's with somebody else. He bought houses with with another woman. He lives with another woman. He doesn't have any other children that I'm aware of, right? It's just my older brother and my youngest sister. I'm the middle child. So, I didn't even forget why I said that, why I brought that up. But I just want to clarify that just because you know God, just because you're serving God, just because you think you're doing the things of God, and you are bringing people to the feet of Jesus, it doesn't mean you're right with God. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't mean like you're right with God, because if my dad was 100% right with God and was not invested, but had a relationship, like a true relationship with God, there's no way my dad would have left the house. There's no way my dad would have allowed the enemy to use him to try to touch me that day. There's no way my dad would have had an affair. There's no way my dad would have started to drink and smoke and have a whole relationship and commit adultery, with another woman, and to this day live with another woman. So we can know God. Knowing him is one thing, but having a relationship with God is something completely different. So it saddens me, right? Like both my parents, neither one of them are in church anymore. They don't go to church. They don't walk with God. They just don't. And although my upbringing was hard, and although my upbringing, I remember now why I brought that up, about the my parents and the relationship. So here's the thing. I hope I don't remember what I was about to say, but here's the thing. My parents never hugged in front of us. They never kissed each other. They never showed love towards one another. They never did. I never saw that in my household. And I never, ever saw my parents argue. I never saw any type of relationship. The only relationship was based on their children, right? So there was never a word of affirmation. There was never a hugs. There was never any type of real connection in my family. Although we were a Christian household and we was a Christian family, we were, a facade. We were not. It wasn't genuine. It just wasn't. Like, people would think that we had a great family. People would think that our upbringing must have been like, oh my God, tremendous and great and good. But in reality, it was not. It was like a whole display. It was a facade. It was fake, And I love my parents dearly. Like, I love my parents dearly. But at the same time, it's like, it just seemed fake, because what you think a family should be, and foundation of love and affirmation and protection, that wasn't there. What was there was provision. So my dad always had a job. He always made sure we had what we needed. He always made sure that we had food on the table, the rent was paid, the bills was paid. My dad did that well. He did that very, very well. We never needed anything. We never lacked anything. Even when my dad left the household, we didn't lack anything, because my dad would make sure to come by and do the food shopping and pay the rent and pay the bills. Even when he was out of the household, my dad made sure that we were good, that we always had a place to stay. So having a relationship with God, a real relationship with God, changes things. You know, like if my family, and I believe this, if my family had a real relationship with God, if they were um fasting, praying, reading the word, and doing all the things that God requires us to do, then my life may have turned out differently. You know, um, I think it's sad, right, that nobody in my family, have ever spoken about being molested, about being sexually abused, and there's no way I was the first one. Somebody in my family, other than myself, had to have gone through this experience, but nobody ever spoke about it. It was like a hush hush and a secret, and, sweep it under the rug. Sweeping things under the rug is a tactic from the enemy. Because unless we speak about something, unless we bring things to light, it can't get healed. It will just keep going, and it will just keep, from generation to generation like, it's gonna just keep bouncing unless somebody decides to stand in the gap and decide enough is enough. um we're not a playground. You're not gonna keep doing this to my family, right? Somebody has to stand up. Somebody has to be brave enough and conscious enough and bold enough to say, nah, we're not gonna keep doing this, right? So when God started telling me to write a book and to speak about the abuse, my first reaction was like, nah, that ain't gonna happen, because that means I am exposing my family. I'm exposing these demons. I'm exposing the doors. I'm exposing what's really happening, right? Like behind closed doors. I am lifting up that mat that everything was swept under, and I had a hard time at first. I was like, God, you want me to expose my family? You want me to talk about the molestation? You want me to do that? But when I gave God my yes, I meant yes. When I said, you know what, I'm gonna follow you. I'm gonna do this thing. I meant it, and I still mean it. Like, I'm still walking in obedience. I am still hanging on to God, even when things are chaotic and crazy, and I don't see nothing happening around me. I just see a whole lot of diminishing of friendship, diminishing of funds, diminishing of everything. I lost my apartment. I don't have a job. My credit is horrible at this point. I haven't been able to pay my bills because God doesn't let me work. Like, I'm trusting God, y'all, on a whole different level. Does it hurt me because I am human? Absolutely. Do I feel some kind of way as a human? Absolutely. Does it bug me, right, that my credit score went from being almost 700 to 500 and something? Absolutely, it hurts. However, I am so confident, and I am trusting God on a whole nother level. And I know He is not a man that He shall lie. I know that He didn't bring me this far to say, you know what, I made a mistake. I know that I've been hearing Him. I know that He has called me. I know that I am doing what He is asking me to do. And because I am being obedient, He's going to see me through, right? Even in my hardship. Like right now, I'm having such a hard time. My daughter's being bullied. My other daughter, the oldest one, talks about how much she dislikes her kids. I am hanging on by the grace of God. I moved back to my mom's house with my two youngest children. Yeah, I'm just out here trusting God on a whole nother level. You know, I remember when I used to attend church, he told me one time, every time I want to show you who I am, every time I want to show you a different character of what I want to do for you, you run and you get a boyfriend, or you run and you get a new job, or you don't need me, or you think you don't need me. You pay your own stuff, you pay your own bills, you're entertaining people, you're doing everything that you're not supposed to do, and you're entertaining, and I cannot show you who I am while you're entertaining, while you're busy, you know, because you're basically you're doing things on your own, and you're not giving me the space to do what I want to do for you. And so this time around, when I gave my yes, did I expect all of this to happen? Absolutely not. Did I think that all of this was going to happen? Absolutely not. You know, but here I still am, standing in my faith and standing on God and standing on my rock and just believing God. Yeah, y'all don't even understand. I am believing God for whatever He said He was going to do for me and what's mine. Yeah, I'm just trusting in God. So in part one, I mentioned 10/20, right? 10/20 was the day that my father tried to molest me. 10/20 should have been the death of me, right? Like emotionally, mentally, spiritually. 10/20 should have been, it was supposed to be my death day, not physically, but spiritually and mentally. It should have been the most traumatic day for me, because it was my own dad that tried to molest me on that day, right? 10/20. But 10/20 has become such a joy. Ten/20 has become such a joy for me. And the reason being is because my daughter, my youngest daughter, Zariah, whom I didn't want to have, who I wanted to abort, who I was mad about. I was mad because I was pregnant with Zariah. I was so angry because I became pregnant with Zariah a week and a half after I have given birth to Zariah. So Zariah is my third child. Zariah is my fourth child. Oh, hold on, guys, because this is hard. So when I found out I was pregnant with Zariah, my fourth child, after just giving birth a week and a half with Zariah, I was angry. I was sad. I was mad. I was depressed. I was all these things. Because I was like, first the doctors tell me I can't have any more kids. Then I get pregnant with Zariah, right? And Zariah is my miracle child. But then I get pregnant with Zariah. So Zariah is also my miracle child. But I didn't want to have Zariah. And Zariah has turned out to be such a blessing. Such a blessing in my life. Like, Zariah is full joy. Like, everything I thought about her when I was pregnant, oh my God, this is gonna be the death of me. Why is she gonna be like, what? Like, why am I like all the negative thoughts I had towards Zariah? She is the complete opposite of all those things I felt when I found out I was pregnant. She is the complete opposite. She is such a happy child. She is always laughing, always smiling, always trying to make other people laugh. Like, she is a complete joy. And her birthday is 10/20. She was born on 10/20/12. So the day that I should have been mentally messed up, the day that should have been my death, right? Not physically. Once again, this is not physical. The day that should have been the most traumatic day of my life, 10/20/88 or 89, should have been that day for me. And instead, God decided to give me a gift on 10/20/12 when he allowed Zariah to be born. You know, we don't always know the plans of God. We don't understand them. We just never know what he has planned for us, right? However, he always has a plan, and he always has a reason, and he knows what's best, you know? So 10/20 is now one of the best days of my life. I celebrate Zariah, and I just realized this year, you guys, when I was writing the book, I just realized, like, God just showed me this while I was writing this book. And the reason I know the date of that day that my dad was trying to molest me was because my cousin, the one that she got married she got married on 10/20, either 88 or 89. I'm have to figure out what I will have to look to see. But that day was my cousin's wedding date. That day was a day of the fire. 10/20. That's the day that that's how I know the date, because my cousin posted happy anniversary to me and my husband, and she put the date 10/20/80 something. And when I realized it, I was like, oh my God, Jesus. Oh my God. Because I couldn't even believe it. I couldn't believe how God turned that date around for me. You know, 10/20 should have been it for me mentally. And then 10/20, he resurrected what should have been, he resurrected what could have been dead in my life by letting me birth Zariah, which is my joy. I'm not saying that my other kids are in joy, but because of the dates, they're so significant to me, you know. So yeah, 10/20/12 and forward has hit differently for my life. It hits differently. My uncle that started molesting me when I was young was born 1/3 something, because I don't know the year, right? Zariah was born 1/3/12. My uncle that started molesting me was just buried, because he just died this year. 23, he died, right? So my uncle was buried on 1/3/23. It's not wild? Like, the way God uses dates, and we don't even understand. Like, to us, they seem so insignificant, but in reality, they're resurrection or death or birthing dates, right? Like, every day means something. Every day means something to somebody. And if you allow God to heal you, and if you allow God to work in your life, and if you allow God to be the master plan of your life, then he will show you dates. He will show you why this date is important, why this date isn't important. Like, he will just show you things about dates that you would have never ever foreseen had you not aligned your life with God. You know, so 1/3, my daughter was born. 1/3, my uncle was born. 1/3, my uncle was buried. You know, it's just really wild. So I'll be talking about part 3, because I know, like, part 2 was probably not what you guys expected, but I had no idea what I was going to say. I just know that I had to do a part 2 because I've been procrastinating, right? Like, you know, doing this, recording my truth and recording my story. It's not an easy thing to do. But if I could help out one person, two people, if I could just help somebody else out, then my trauma was worth it, right? Trust God. Trust God in what he's doing. Trust God in what he's showing you. Trust God. Believe him and trust him. Like, he only wants what's best for you. And in the moment, it doesn't feel that way. In the moment, it feels like, bruh, you hurting me out here. Like, because you're in the moment. But if you just open your eyes and you like just and you see masaya, like, I don't even know how to say it. If you see forward, if you could just try to see forward in any way, shape, or form, right? Then you would know that God has your back and he allowed everything for a reason. Like, nothing happens without God allowing it to happen. Nothing. Nothing. It doesn't matter how dramatic it is. It doesn't matter. If you think about Job, he allowed the devil to kill his family. He allowed the animals to die. He allowed it all to happen because he knew that Job was going to be faithful and was going to trust and believe him no matter what. And same thing with you, same thing with me. You know, God allows certain things to happen in our lives just so we could turn around and see that his hands was on it the entire time. You know, God will get the glory in this story. God will get the glory out of my life. God will get the glory. God will get the glory. Because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be who I am today. So with that being said, God bless you guys. I will talk about part 3. Don't know what that's going to be about. But, you know, I'm allowing God to do what he wants to do in my life. So some days I might cry. Some days I might laugh. Some days I just might be serious. Some days I don't know what's going to happen because each and every day is new in the Lord. So many blessings to you guys. Bye-bye.